I'm Emma. That's Josh. This is our 50-foot catamaran, and you're watching Sailing Uncut.
Welcome to the very first ever episode of the Sailing Uncut podcast.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Alrighty, we're just going to get stuck into it because we have found that we like to waffle and just make absolutely no sense.
Mostly me.
So what we've decided to do is I just have a bunch of questions and topics in front of me, and I'm just going to ask them, and then either one of us is going to answer, and then you can just get to relax and follow along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off the list is Josh. Can you do some top stories?
Top stories. So if you are watching this, you'll be able to see that we have new shirts. If you're listening, we have new shirts.
Yay! So the thing behind the new shirts is that I just really couldn't figure out what I wanted to wear in these videos and while doing the boat renovation. So I thought, hey, we have our logo. Why not just create our own shirts so then people around us as well can be like, hey, what's that Sailing Uncut thing?
And it also saves time in the mornings because it removes the decision about what to wear. If we have like a uniform, that's an awesome
it's
shirt.
so good.
It's just going to be awesome.
And we're just going to have them in different colors. And these ones that we're wearing are just really our test sample, but we're really happy with them. So
Yeah.
I think we're just going to order a bunch, and now we've got a uniform.
So cool.
So that's actually a really good way to lead into the next thing, which is just wanting to talk about our YouTube channel.
We have a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
What?
we do.
So this will be the 7th thing that goes on the YouTube channel. So we have a full week of videos.
Mhm.
Explain the YouTube channel.
Okay, so the YouTube channel is that we are going to be documenting the refit of our boat that we have.
We are, and we're going to be doing it every single day.
And whose idea was it to do it every single day?
It was mine, and we're a week in. We're a week ahead, so we've got 2 weeks worth of videos, and I'm exhausted.
I know.
And we haven't even done much boat work yet. So
And
it's
we're
like,
stressing because the podcast needs to get released and it's taking a lot longer today than we were expecting.
but I think the daily videos are going to be good. I think people are loving it at the moment. We've had such good feedback, so thank you for everyone who's given us feedback because we really, really appreciate that feedback. And yeah, we're daily vloggers now.
Yes. Yes.
So you mentioned our boat. Should we explain about the boat?
Yes.
Can I tell everyone what it is?
Yes.
So it's a home built. It's 50 foot. It's it's a Roger Simpson Slipstream 15 is the model. So Slipstream is the model, and 15 is 15 meters, which is about 50 foot. So it's home built but designed by Roger Simpson, who was quite a well known Australian designer.
And for some reason, the previous owner has also named the boat Slipstream.
Yes, so it's currently named Slipstream, which is the model of the boat. It's like
It's so confusing. So what we've decided to do is once we've finished the refit, then we will be renaming the boat. But we have a couple of names in mind that we may want, but we're not too sure if they will suit however we design the boat. So I think we're going to wait until it's all completed and then give her a new name.
And so it's a boat that needs a lot of work. We bought it knowing that there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
We're really excited to do that work, which is why we have a YouTube channel showing all the work that we're doing. It's not like we're just, oh no, it has work to do.
It was really interesting when we actually bought the boat. We had half of the people that we know were in that's a really good opportunity, buy it, do it up. That sounds like a great experience. And then the other half were like, no, you guys are absolutely crazy. There is too much work on this boat. It is pretty much a write-off. Don't do it. You're making a really, really bad mistake and shouldn't go ahead with it. So we were really torn for a while as to what we should do, but we were like, hey, why not just get it and
we're having
give us
so
some
much
love.
fun. Like, we've only been attacking it for 2 weeks, but it's just been so much fun just ripping apart this boat and just seeing how a boat is made.
And being on the hard, there's no life consequences, like it's different if you're out in the water. I understand things can go wrong and it can be really dangerous, but being here, whatever we do, we either will fix it or we'll realize that it's unrepairable and we'll just figure out what to do. But we're super happy with what decision we've made. And just also, I just wanted to highlight again what you were saying about the YouTube channel in relation to just explaining to people really clearly that we do want to only be about 7 days ahead.
Yes, so some channels on YouTube, completely understandably, are about a month or 2 months ahead, because you need time to edit and whatnot. But we're going to try our absolute best to only stay 7 days ahead of time. So the videos you're watching are a week
behind.
in the past for us.
And-
This gets in the whole time travel thing. It's not.
But what I think one of the main reasons as to why we wanted to do that is so then when we're actually doing different elements of the boat, if people look at what we're doing and like, hey, this is my suggestion, or I've done this in the past and it's worked, like we really want to get people's feedback and actually do what people are suggesting, which is why we
Yeah.
need to stay as real time as possible, because we can't just show all the work that we've done
And then ask for people's opinions, and then it's a month from now, and we're like, well, we already did that a different way.
done that,
Sorry
and
about
it's
that.
completely different. We don't know what we're doing. At the end of the day, we are starting as 100% noobs. So as much feedback and advice as possible is going to be really helpful, I think.
Absolutely.
So I guess that then leads on really well to explain who we are. So do you want to give your explanation of who you are and your sailing background?
No, you go first. Who are you?
Okay. Well, so much for me running the podcast.
I just thought I'd flip it back.
All right. So my name is Emma, obviously. I am 27 years old. We live in Australia, in Queensland.
Southeast Queensland.
Yes. And my sailing background is not much, to be honest. Like growing up, I used to like go to sailing school once every year. Shout out to Judy. Thank you for that. Once a year we would go to Boring Point at Lake Tharaba and just jump in little boats and play around
And
the
they
lake.
were little Hobie cats, I think you remember saying. Little catamarans.
I have no idea. The biggest memory that I have is us going out there, capsizing, bringing the boat back up, and just doing that just so many times. But that is pretty much my main knowledge of sailing.
And so how old were you when you were doing that?
Oh, like just teenager.
So essentially, as an adult, you've never sailed on a boat.
Except for the couple of handful times that we've sailed this boat. I guess the way that I explain to people is I know the theory, I know the fundamentals, I know the terminology, I understand a little bit about the wind, how
Can
that
you tie
works.
any knots?
No.
So you can't tie a bowline, can't tie figure eight. I reckon you could do figure eight. That's that's all figure-outable stuff.
Once I learn how to tie some knots, I know, the fundamentals of sailing in the wind and all of that sort of stuff. So I can figure it out. I'm super confident.
And you've got like a good 10,000 hours of YouTube under your belt.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen a lot of YouTube.
Seen a lot of sailing YouTube. That is pretty much all that Josh and I watch, which is one of the reasons as to why we got ourselves into this mess, because we saw other people and were like, hey, that's how we want to live our life as well. So tell me
So tell people about what your role is in the YouTube channel.
Whoa, for someone who's not meant to be running the podcast, I'm kidding. I'm just making
more
a joke.
about you. Tell me more about you. I want to hear more about you.
My main role is I actually, at the beginning here, I'm doing a lot of the camera work. I explained it in one of our videos, and a lot of the stuff that we're doing right now is demolishing things, is cutting things out, is just figuring out what is going on, and that is Josh's strength, not mine. So I lately have been doing lots of the filming. I also do probably, I would say, 80% of the editing. I do all the rough cuts, get the storyline, do all that sort of thing, and then I pass the rest of the edit on to Josh, and he kind of just polishes it off, which hopefully we'll be able to outsource that section of it in the future. I'm really liking doing the rough cut myself at the moment, because I can like demonstrate our humor and just figure out that storyline, and just wanting to get what our style is. I think it's going to be really important for me to learn that before I then have to pass on to somebody else to get them to do it.
And can you so how are you editing this? Like, did you just Google how to edit? Have you been trained in editing? Like, what did you do before we started
are you
this
setting
YouTube
yourself up? Oh, before we started the YouTube channel.
So like, what's your, like, when we're talking more about you, what do you do? Like, if someone asks you what do you do prior to this YouTube channel thing, what would you say?
I ran a company for 5 years.
Yeah, and so I mean that's the whole.
Yeah, it's like, what
itself.
are you getting at? Okay, so I guess just a little bit about me. So I actually, before meeting Josh, I have a social work degree. I actually worked in government for about 3 years, and then I met Josh, and then that all is when things went completely wrong way, and
wrong way.
And
maybe the right way.
Yeah, no, definitely the right way. And our biggest thing in our relationship is that we've never wanted to work 9-to-5 jobs, so we created a company together. But I'm probably not going to talk much about the company in this podcast, because I think that that's a whole podcast in itself. So we've been running that company for the last 5 years.
Yeah, almost 5.
And then we bought this boat about 8 months ago, and we've been living on it just in Scarborough Marina, not really doing much to it, just working on the company. And now we are up in Redland Bay on the hard, really focusing, trying to get this channel working. So in terms of editing, I have had zero experience. The only experience I've had is Josh teaching me how to edit a couple of YouTube videos that we tried to make a couple of years ago.
The first video on our channel on Sailing Uncut was like your second or third ever video that you've edited.
Yeah, so
Pretty good. I'm
bear
pretty
with
impressed.
me. The edits will get better, but I'm happy with how they're going at the moment. So enough about me. Tell me about yourself.
My name is Josh.
How old are you?
I am. Did we say how old you are?
Yep.
Oh.
I said 27.
27.
So I'm turning 28 in June this year, so in 6 months' time.
So you're mid 27. You're a young spring chicken.
Mhm.
I'm, on the other hand, a very old man. I just turned 29.
And when did you turn 29?
Christmas Eve. So like about a week ago.
So you're a new 29.
I'm a fresh 29. So I've got a whole year left of my 20s, which is all right, I guess. But that's motivation to get this boat done in a year. So anyway, I'm 29.
Mhm.
I have quite a bit of sailing background compared to Emma. As a kid, probably maybe 10 or 11 till maybe 15 was sailing dinghies, sabos, traveled around sailing sabos, flying 11s, a little bit of 29ers, and then from there sailing got a bit boring, and then windsurfing was the thing, so we windsurfed for a couple of years, and then kitesurfing. So basically from maybe 16 through till now, just I mean all through my early 20s I was all day every day at the beach kiting, just in and around the water, so lots of water experience. Dad has a yacht. Did quite a few trips with him, quite a few, maybe 3 or 4 bigger trips with him. So yeah, sailing, I can sail. Sailing's easy.
This is why Josh is the captain of the boat, because he has much more experience.
Mean, sailing's easy. Maneuvering a giant 50-foot catamaran, not so easy.
No.
And being in charge, like I'm normally just, I'm happy to go along for the ride, do what I'm told. Like captaining's, it's different. That's another podcast in itself. Anyway, so
our plan is to have this refit done before Josh is 30. So we're expecting to be on the hard for about 12 months.
Yeah.
And we're really going to push it so we can have the boat back in the water in a year from now.
Yes. And for everyone who's like, oh, it's going to take longer than you think, we think it's going to take 6 months. We know it's going to take a year. Put it that way.
Well, yeah. We were hoping we would be back in the water when I was 28, but now we're pushing it to when Josh is.
Yes. Which I understand. Everyone who's listening to this going, oh, you're not old. Yeah, I get it. Okay, we're young. Right? Just putting that out there, we're young.
So the next topic that I want to discuss, I just need to give a little bit of context.
Wait, I didn't tell you about, so editing, I did editing for a while. Before meeting Em, did like any job you can, like in like probably 10 different jobs. Not a single job.
We could probably do 3 podcasts on that.
But one of the main jobs I did was I was working with a builder for about 4 years renovating houses. So quite a bit of building experience. Next topic.
So, just to kind of give context as to how we ended up on the hard, we bought the boat, we delivered it to Scarborough Marina, and then we were there for living on it for about 6 months, would you say?
6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, 6 or 7 months. And then what we had planned to do was take the boat out for a month, cruise around Moreton Bay, have the time of our lives, and then after that period of time had ended, come here to Redland Bay, haul out and do the work. So we had
because we'd been told by a lot of people that we need to spend time use the boat, and we'd lived on it for a long time, but we hadn't actually used it because work, and we didn't really want to because we didn't want to break it. Like
we were worried, like it was scary.
About it. Rightly so.
So
Foreshadowing.
We had prepped it for a month, so all provision for a month. We go out on our first day, and then we
had a lovely sail. We sailed. I don't even know. I should have known how many nautical miles it is from where we were to Moreton. But anyway, it was like a couple hour sail. We played around for a little bit, anchored, went for a swim. It was awesome.
And then the anchor chain broke.
Yeah.
So
in 25 knots.
All turned to crap. So what we decided to do,
like the anchor chain snapped. Like it didn't break. Like a link in the chain snapped, which is apparently not usual.
So we'll save like the details of that story for later. But all that means is that on the first night it snapped. We then made the decision that we obviously needed to get back to safety. So instead of doing our month of cruising, we decided to just come straight here to Redland Bay, haul out, and just get the work done.
Because to be honest, it wasn't even that much of a disappointment. Like we were so excited to start the channel, to start the work, to start the boat project. So it was like, yeah, it was a bit disappointing that we didn't get to stay out and, cruise around for a month. But also it wasn't disappointing because we get to start the boat work.
So I probably would recommend to people, if you are listening to this podcast and haven't watched our most recent videos to do that first,
Yes.
because the next segment we're going to be talking about things that has happened throughout the week. So videos 1 to 6. So go watch them now. We'll wait and then come back, and then all of this will make sense to you. So what I want to throw to you now is, can you please tell us the story about how the support punched through our boat when we were getting put on the hard?
Yeah, so we got pulled out, we got propped up, and Emma and I were just watching. Like, it was just this new thing. The boat's flying. It's out of the water. Boats don't look like they're made to be out of the water.
No,
it's
it is
bizarre.
very intimidating. What type of lift did they use?
So they used a sea lift. Apparently, there's only 2 in the southern hemisphere, and they're 2 local, like they're around here. And it's like a big trolley that goes under. There's like the inflatable little bags that puff up and then lift you up under the bridge deck and then pull you out. So it's it's a much nicer and calmer way to lift out a catamaran rather than a sling around the outside. So yeah, it goes underneath, lifts it up, and then pulls you out. And then they put you on some sticks, basically, some bits of metal that are supposed to hold you up off the ground.
Which just does not make sense to me.
Anyway, so where they put those, they were knocking around looking for the bulkheads. You could see underneath that there was an area where the anti-foul had been not as good, which is clearly where it was propped previously. They were doing their thing, and we were just letting them. We just had a discussion. We're like, we're not going to tell them how to do their job. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, we were having the discussion as to what type of boat people we wanted to be. We were like, if other owners were in this same situation, would they just let what we considered the professionals to do their job, or would they be in there telling them exactly where they wanted the supports to be and pretty much just telling the workers what to do? We decided not to do that because we were under the assumption that they knew more than us for this particular situation.
Yeah. So let them do their thing. A day later, we're sitting on the boat and we hear this massive crack and crunch, and it was a bad sound. But I was kind of optimistic. I'm like, I went down to look. So I went down one of the hulls. I thought it was like a bag that had fallen, so I picked it up and threw it on the ground again. I'm like, was that the sound?
And I was like, nope, that definitely wasn't the sound.
And it was like on cue, like it was a comedy movie. It happened again. And I kind of yelled up to Em, hey, Em, can you go quickly get off the boat and move the car? Because the car was parked underneath the boat.
So we were worried if the boat decided to completely fall off its supports, it was just going to crush the car.
And at that stage, I didn't know.
And literally the 2 things that we own. We own our boat and our car, and one was about to squish the other.
That's actually very funny. But because I didn't know what happened. I just heard a crunch, and it was definitely the sound of fiberglass cracking. I'm like, crap. So I get off the boat. I jump off the boat as well and went down and had a look. And it wasn't as bad as it sounded. It sounded really bad. But there'd been clear water damage. Not clear. There was damage underneath the boat. It was wet. And where they had propped it on one of the bulkheads, the bulkhead had snapped a little bit, and the prop had pushed up through the hull. Not to the point where it was like cracking through, but to the point where it was squished up. So that the hull, there was a big divot in the hull where the prop was, which I was like, okay, if that goes again, then the boat could unbalance, and then we're in a bit of trouble.
And what's really interesting, just a quick sidebar, is because all of this was happening, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't have cameras on us at the time, so we weren't able to film it because obviously we were more stressed about making sure that our boat didn't just fall off the stands. So that's why we thought this podcast was a really cool idea, to be able to explain these stories, because we just don't have footage of it because we were so caught up in just trying to make sure that our home wasn't completely destroyed. So going back to you.
So I ran up. I was like, okay, well, there's no way we can fix this without everyone here. Luckily, it was a couple of days before Christmas. And luckily, all the employees were still here at the boatyard. They were having their Christmas party. So I ran up and said, hey, can we get a little bit of help, please? And then I explained, one of the props is pushed up through the hull. And at first, they thought I was joking. I'm pretty sure they thought I was joking.
Why would you go in there and just say that, though?
Well, I don't know, because I was really calm about it. Like, I didn't want to be like, come on, help me! So I was just like, hey, guys, like, can I get a bit of hand? Like, it's pushed up through the hull. And they're like, what do you mean? And like, yeah, like, I heard a big crack and it's pushed up through the hull. And they all kind of went white-faced, and they all just jumped up really quickly. I'm like, oh crap, maybe it is a big deal. Anyway, they ran down, got the lift, put the lift straight under the boat within 2 minutes.
Yeah, they reacted really quickly.
And I mean, I don't think it was anywhere near as big of a deal as we thought, because the main bulkhead where it was, the bulkhead where it was still fine. I think there might have been a repair on the bulkhead, but you could see when we pulled up the floor that it had definitely cracked the bottom and pushed up through. So
what our concern though was, obviously that wasn't as big of a deal. I was worried about the flow-on effect.
Yes.
If that went, was then the bridge deck going to go? Was the other hull going to go? Was all of a sudden it just going to puff into
just explode
into a puff of smoke and be gone?
So they lifted us up and moved the prop to the main bulkhead where the anti-foul was, different and where it probably should have been in the first place. But after looking at it, there was a dodgy repair under that bulkhead. So there's obviously been a repair there that wasn't good. So in an ideal situation, it would have been absolutely fine. It's just our boat wasn't ideal and it did push up through. So
And we always knew that there were bad areas in the hull, so it wasn't a complete surprise to us. It was just a little bit terrifying when we didn't know what was going on.
And the sound was really loud.
Yeah,
it was really just
loud.
like cracking fiberglass. Like I want to recreate the sound for one of the videos. I reckon that'd be really cool. But anyway, no one's fault. Lessons learned. Be more attentive, which later on when they've moved the boat again, very attentive to where it's going, how it's being propped. Very like, okay.
You're now that boat owner.
I'm now that boat owner. Now I'm the annoying one that will not, because I've learned.
Yeah, you will not let them stop until you're 100% happy, because at the end of the day, we own this boat and we're the only ones who have a vested an interest in it.
And I can live with the mistake. If I make the mistake, I can live with it. If someone else makes, I'm like, oh, well, that's annoying. Like it's less annoying if I make the mistake because I can learn from that.
So moving on, I guess, to the same sort of thing is my next kind of question is, how bad is the damage to the core in the starboard bridge deck cabin? So to give people a little bit of context, for the first week of videos, we have been stripping the starboard hull, just getting it back to pretty much bare hull so we can see all of the damage.
Which involved ripping off carpet, lining, just basic stuff.
And then putting a couple of holes in walls.
Yeah, so after we did the basic stuff, we put a couple of little holes in the boat to see what the core looked like. So cutting through the fiberglass, ripping the fiberglass off and seeing what that inner core looked like.
So in the starboard bridge deck cabin, which is what we're calling that area, there was a cupboard and then there were stairs going up to the bed, and we're like, all right, well, we know that cupboard isn't going to stay, so why don't we rip that out and then we can kind of assess that area. And we were under the assumption that area was fine.
It looked pretty fine. I mean, I knew there was bridge deck issues. I knew, and to be fair, I was never under the assumption that it would be fine. It was just not really bad, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't think it would be good. I just didn't think it would be bad.
So we pulled the cupboard out and then we start making a cut to see the core. And then behind that is just absolute
so
core.
where the hull comes up from the bottom up to where the bridge deck is. I don't know the correct terminology, so we'll just go with it. Bad. You could see there's a repair being done. Really strong, really good. And then under the cupboard, in the core, really bad.
So a theory is that they obviously did the repair next to it, saw that the cupboard was there and was like, oh, well, let's just...
Sorry to interrupt. Today I was down underneath and you can see where they've done the repair from the outside.
And so then they've obviously been like, oh, well, the cupboard's there. Let's hope that behind there is fine.
Or too hard, or
So then what, then do you just want to explain to people kind of what we're worried about with like the bulkhead and things like that?
Yeah, so now we're at the stage where previously in the videos you would have seen we were in a different spot, so we hadn't had the boat moved to our like kind of long-term spot yet. So we knew it was getting moved and we didn't want to pull out too much because we didn't want to make it structurally even worse before it got moved, because that would just... there's so much smoke going over the lens. Sorry. So yeah, we didn't want to make it interrupt the structural integrity of the boat more than we had to. And we were just pulling little bits off and seeing what was what, and like we weren't doing too much that was going to really destroy it. So we kind of pulled it enough apart to go, oh, okay, that's a big job, and then we kind of left it at that.
And yeah, and so we're just needing to, when we go back to it, obviously figure out where the damage starts and ends, because where we've uncovered, it's right next to a bulkhead.
The main bulkhead. So it's a main beam bulkhead. It's where the mast is stepped, so it's that bulkhead.
And we're not sure, we still don't know how much damage has occurred to that bulkhead, if any, or if there's a lot. So there's still a lot of unknowns at this point in time. And what we decided to do is we are not claiming that we know 100% what we're doing. So we're wanting to get somebody in and tell us exactly how to repair it. And
not even exactly how to repair it, exactly what we should look out for or can't do.
Or like what we need to do that will make it structurally sound again.
Yeah.
And we were having a discussion because we know a lot of people who have boat building experience. There's people in the yard who've had boat building experience, and we're weighing up if we should pay somebody to come in who has a, what's the word? not not a surveyor. Oh my gosh, naval architect.
Oh, right. Yep.
We're weighing up if we should get a naval architect in. So someone that we're paying is obviously going to tell us a lot more information and give us the yes or no go ahead.
Yeah, and that's different to how we normal, like in our normal lives, we always ask for forgiveness, not permission. Like we're always just like, we can figure this out. We have this ridiculously optimistic attitude with any problem we're faced with. This is one of those ones where I'm like we probably could, but also maybe we should just let someone tell us what to do for the structural elements of the
Because
boat.
at the end of the day, when we're out in the ocean, we want to be 100% certain that this boat is structural. If we end up having a family on this boat, we obviously don't want to put any lives at risk.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure at this point in time that we're doing things correctly.
And we're erring on the side of caution rather than
regret, really.
Yeah.
So that's really been slowing things down, but that's where at the point that we're at now is that we're just needing to bring someone in. They can say, yes, do this, no, don't do that, give us some advice, so then we can just go ahead and start doing the repairs. Because we're at the stage now where everything in the starboard hull is essentially stripped. Like, the next thing we have to do is start finding the big problem areas and then figuring out a solution.
Fixing them. Yeah, and I actually had a conversation with someone today about that and how we can prop up the boat in a different way to then be able to start attacking some of those areas, which is really exciting. So,
and do you want to just talk to people about a moisture meter? A lot of people have been saying to us, you can just use a moisture meter, right, to see where the water is.
You can also just touch the side of the hull, and where it's squishy. Like there's very clear areas where water has got in and it's completely rotted the balsa core. So we're a balsa core, so we're fiberglass balsa fiberglass, and balsa woods. It's good because it's really, really, really light. It's bad because if water gets in, it rots very quickly and it's just useless.
So the areas that we're cutting, we 100% know that there is rot there.
Yeah.
So we know that we have to repair that.
That's not really true, though, because we did cut a lot of areas that weren't rotten.
But that was just for our peace of mind.
And
also,
fixes.
It's much cooler on a YouTube video for someone to see the comparison between good balsa core and rotten balsa core.
Yeah.
It's much more boring if you just literally put a moisture meter over it and then you can see, okay, that bit's dry, that bit's wet. So there is a visual representation that we also want to be showing viewers as well. Because
it's very easy if you say, it's like you said, it's a comparison. It's saying, well, this area up here should look like that area down there. It doesn't. Why? And then because there are a lot of people watching our channel at the moment, and I say a lot of people, like a percentage-wise, a lot of people are watching it and they don't know lots about boats. They're not coming at it from a sailing point of view. They don't care about boats as much as we do. They just want to be entertained, and maybe they know us, or maybe they're friends of friends, and maybe they just want to be entertained. So I think we're going to approach the channel a little bit more along the lines of like, if this was a full-on boat channel, we could just put a moisture meter on it and say, oh, that's bad. And then only a certain amount of our audience would even understand what that means. So I think a lot of the channel will be not dumbing it down, but just really going back to basics, because we need to go back to basics for starters.
And we just always want to set the premise that at the end of the day, we are not doing this to as a how-to.
Yeah.
Like, people can obviously get knowledge from what we're doing, but we're not saying these are the steps that you should take in an ideal situation to repair a boat.
Yeah.
But come follow us and watch us be goofy
while
we do it.
Yeah.
So I guess then my next topic was, what does the starboard hull look like now, which we've answered. It's
Check.
really bare hulls. Like,
Check.
This is the outside of the boat is.
Yeah, go watch the videos. If you haven't seen it, go watch the videos, because rather than us explain it, you can see that. Like, that's all on the videos for you to watch. So I really love this when we're explaining stories that you can't see on the video. I think that's where when we start getting into the nitty gritty and there's really kind of conceptual stuff that we can't show very
easily.
easily.
Our emotions as well, explaining our emotions.
Yeah.
So I guess we're just going to wrap it up with two more things. So the first question, which I'm going to direct at myself, is what has been the hardest thing to deal with while being on the hard?
You can't ask yourself a question.
Yes, I can, because then I'm going to ask you one.
Oh, okay, cool.
So my question to myself is, what has been the hardest thing to deal with on the hard? And the answer is mosquitoes. And if you just saw me looking over here in the last 5 minutes, it's because there's a mosquito buzzing around and I just
getting attacked?
Want it to come and bite me. They are driving me absolutely crazy. I literally was off the boat all this morning.
And last night.
And
I was in on the boat with the doors open, just sitting here completely fine.
Didn't get bitten once. I come in, the first 5 minutes, I am just still covered in bites. So that is what's driving me crazy. If anybody out there has any suggestions as to how I fix this problem, then please let me know.
And so if you're watching the video of this podcast and you can see smoke coming up through the lens, we've got a citronella candle and a Mozzie coil thing going, and it's blowing up through the lens.
That's my barrier.
We've
like,
got a force field.
The public toilets, the public shower, the having to climb up a ladder every day,
Living
all
in
that stuff,
dirt.
living in dirt, living in sweat. I can deal with all of that. Living literally one step away from our neighbors, I can live with that too. I can't live with getting eaten alive by mosquitoes and sandflies. That is the hardest thing to deal with. Last question. Josh, what have you learnt this week?
I've just learned that we shouldn't do the podcast at this time of day because the light has been slowly getting darker.
Oh
and darker and
no!
darker. What else have I learned this week? I've learned that the boat is going to take way longer than we thought, and I'm more okay with that than I thought I'd be. I'm actually glad. I'm really excited to spend a full year of my life just getting stuck into learning everything there is to know about this boat, about how I can make this boat better, how we can make it better for us, for maybe a potential family in the future, like just how we can make this thing ours.
Because at the end of the day, we are only ever going to be doing this once in our life.
Yeah.
So we need to just appreciate it for what it is, get stuck into the work, value doing it. And then at the end of the 12 months, we can be like, that was a freaking awesome experience that we had together.
Otherwise, like there's people who do this every day for a job and they hate it. And it's like, well, I don't want to hate it. I don't want to. Yeah.
But it's not going to be for the rest of our lives. No. It's only the next 12 months. So let's just get stuck into it. So
yeah, that's what I've learned. And I've learned that we are a really good team too. Like I think that this is...
only one thing that you've learned.
Oh, only one thing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was two things because of the podcast, and then... Maybe I'll learn that next week, that you're a good team.
Maybe you should. All right, everyone. I think we're going to wrap it up there. I hope that some of you have lasted this long.
We're only 30 minutes in, so I reckon that's nice and short. That's a short little good podcast.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for listening. We're going to be doing this once a week. And the other thing as well, if there's certain things that you want us to be talking about, leave it in the comment of wherever you're watching this content. Yep. And then we can answer your questions in the next podcast. We'd love to be able to do that, get some feedback, like really just talk to us and we can improve from here.
I think after a couple of episodes, most of the podcast will just be questions and answers. I think we're going to be getting quite a few questions. I mean, we've already got a list of questions that have come in from people, which is quite exciting. So we will just be answering questions and just really filling you in, because we're doing videos every single day, but those videos are only 5 to 10 minutes. We really want to try and share this entire experience with you. So that the other, I don't know how many. I wish I had known how many minutes in a day. There's lots of hours in a day, and you're only seeing 10 minutes. So we really want to fill you in on every little thing that goes on in terms of a boat renovation. In case you're watching this or listening to this and you want to do it yourself, I think that's gonna be such a valuable, because after a year we're gonna have 365 videos completely documenting a boat going from what it is now to ideally a pristine, awesome, brand new, epic boat.
And follow along so you can see if that happens or not. And the biggest thing that we could ask from you guys, if you could please head to our YouTube channel and press that subscribe button, that would just mean so much to us, as we're just trying to get this channel growing and we're just needing to push it out to as many people so then everyone can come and follow us along every day.
And if you know someone who loves boats, who is just into boat stuff, then just tell them about it. Just go, and you don't have to share them the link. Just go, hey, I watched this really cool YouTube channel called Sailing Uncut. So that'd be awesome. That'd be really helpful.
That would be so helpful. So thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.
Bye.